Time keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by military veterans. Get yourself ready. It's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast. That podcast is giving a voice to our veterans. On today's episode, we have Kelli Kersey on, Marine veteran. Very excited to hear her story. One of the individuals that had been on before recommended her to come on, so I'm excited to hear another great story. But before we get into that, if you're enjoying the podcast, go to our website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. On the website, there are places if you feel like you want to donate and help us out with our cause of getting our veteran voices out, you could do that. But more importantly, there is a merchandise tab that you can click on. You can buy some of the cool merchandise. I got this cool little cup right here. I don't know if you can see it. There it is right there. Yeah. I got that cool cup, but there's all kinds of goodies, t-shirts, all that type of stuff. But anything that you do as far as purchasing anything or donating anything would be much appreciated. And if you want to be a guest on the podcast, and email me directly at thelostart@gmail.com. And I will get back with you and figure out a time to get together and do a podcast. All right. With that, Kelli, how are you doing today?
I'm great. And you?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm having a good time. I'm excited to hear your story.
I'm excited to tell it.
All right, perfect. Well, hey, let's start at the beginning then. Go back to where you grew up, and then kind of walk us through what drew you to military service, specifically the Marine Corps.
So I originally was born in Arizona and moved to Oklahoma in the Tulsa area.
Nice. And that's close to where I'm from.
Where are you from?
Vian. It's over by Lake Tenkiller, right on I-40, close to Sallisaw.
There you go.
Yep.
So I had a full ride scholarship to Phillips University. It's not there anymore. I think OSU took it over. And my mom was so excited, happy that her oldest daughter was going into, going to college. And I just flat out told her I'm not going.
Okay.
She was not very happy about that.
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah.
So she tricked me into enrolling in college. And 3 days before I was supposed to go, I said, I told you I'm not going. I'm going into the Marine Corps. And again, not happy about it. She goes, if you don't like it, pack your stuff and get out.
Oh, wow.
So what did I do? I packed my stuff and got out. I left my car, had a friend pick me up. And I was like, no, I'm serious about this. And my dad tried to talk me out of it. He was in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. My grandfather on my mom's side was in the Navy. And I didn't even know this, but my grandfather on my dad's side was in the Marine Corps and a DI, and he was crusty. Big time.
Okay. Very nice. I like it.
So the reason why I chose the Marine Corps is for 2 years, drilled all of the recruiters from every unit, because I originally thought I wanted to go into the Air Force, but I caught everybody in a lie. And the only recruiter that did not lie to me was the Marine Corps recruiter.
Wow.
And that's why I chose the Marine Corps.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
But I knew I wanted to go in just because school is always going to be there. But I felt like I owed it to everybody before me that gave up their life and got hurt or whatever, but served to give me what I have right now. And that was more important to me than going to school.
Yeah, that's a good reason, in my opinion. I mean, that's one of those great factors that Marines look for, is that patriotic aspect. So that's awesome, incredible. So at this point, you're on your own,
Right.
and then talk to the recruiters, Marine recruiters, the way you're going to go. And at this point, you're out of high school.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you'd already been out of high school, but um, so what was the timeline, like time frame that it took before you actually shipped and went to boot camp?
Um, I would assume, I guess it's 6 months because I got out of high school and then I was slated in to leave the beginning of January.
Okay, got it. Okay, so January is when you actually shipped off.
Yes.
Awesome.
2004.
And
Or
that was
I'm
out
sorry,
of
94. Wow. I'm trying to make myself younger.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good. We all need to do that from time to time. It's good. It's good. But yeah, so when you shipped out of Tulsa,
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. Okay, I got you. And then so flew into where? Because I'm not sure. I know you went to Paris Island, but where did you fly into?
Um, we flew into uh that's a good question. Well, it was South Carolina, and then we had to be bused to uh to Paris Island.
Yeah,
Um, that I can't remember.
interesting.
I was like, do I have a choice, really, where I'm gonna go?
Yeah, that's true. So was that your first time on a flight? A lot of people I talk to, it's their first time flying is going to boot camp. Was
Oh
that your
no,
first time? No.
no. Both of
Okay.
my parents work for the airlines, and
Oh,
so
nice.
I was flying since I was 2 weeks old.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Wow. So old hat for you as far as the flying. That's good. All right. So talk to me about when you showed up to Paris Island. What was like? What were you feeling? What was it like as you were entering in and starting your journey as a Marine?
That is actually kind of funny because I was super excited and everybody else on that bus was so super scared. They're like, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life?
Yeah, yeah,
And I was basically calming people down on the bus. And I was like, all right, cool. Footsteps. All right, got it.
yeah.
Tell me where to go, what to do.
Yeah.
Um, the funny part that I didn't tell you about when I was in MEPS, right before I shipped out,
Yeah.
uh, I thought I already took the ASVAB, but it was the pre-ASVAB. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
slated to be air traffic control,
Okay.
but I was at MEPS and at the hotel room, which is another funny thing. Somehow they messed up and they put me rooming with a guy. I know, right? And I was like, what? You're in my room. And he's like, no, you're in my room. And I was like, he goes, well, maybe we should call and have them change this. I said, you know what? Really? Who cares? I said, everybody, you're the last dude I'm going to see for a long time. So, I mean, who really cares? I said, we
Yeah.
could just, I mean, we had separate beds and everything else, but and he became a really good friend. And we stayed up all night and then go through all of our stuff in the morning. And oh, well, yeah, now you're going to take the real ASVAB. I was like, what? And I was exhausted fell asleep through half of it,
Yeah.
get to boot camp, and they're telling everybody, you know, what their MOS is going to be and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what is happening here? So they told me, and they're like, well, you didn't score high enough on the ASVAB to be ATC. So you can either be in Motor T and be a truck driver, or you can be a cook. And I was like, I don't want to be either one of those. I said,
Yeah.
you know what? I don't care. I'm really here to just do a job and support and just put me in open. That's it. They did, and
Okay.
I took out Motor T.
All right. A driver or mechanic?
Driver.
Driver. Okay. It's
And
important to clarify which one, because
right.
there is a little bit of a different job. Mechanics are literally sitting there fixing stuff all day. I'm sure
Well,
they drive from time to time, but
and the mechanics probably know a little bit more than the cooks do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe,
I'm just
maybe.
kidding. I'm not trying to bash anybody. Everybody has their job, right?
It's all good. Don't worry about it. Ooh,
So,
kicked my stand there.
oh, you're a mechanic?
Uh-uh.
Oh,
No, my brother, he's a mechanic. He can fix pretty much anything. So if I have problems, I call him. I say, "Hey, what
well,
do I do?"
I'll have to get his number so he can fix all my stuff too.
Okay, all right, yeah. Very nice.
So, no, I was a driver and not LVSs. I was just the basic driver,
Mhm.
which, you know, it was fun. It was cool. And I learned a lot, even though it was something that wasn't what my plan was.
Right.
I was glad that I was able to flourish in and learn from something that I would never have chosen for myself.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. So you're at boot camp. They tell you, hey, you're going to be Motor T. But how was like? Talk to me about your boot camp experience. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was awesome.
Okay.
Actually, and most people say that they did not like boot camp, but I'd do it again. Um, and we had talked about this before. My boot camp girls, they just had a 30-year reunion where they all went to, well, some of them. I didn't because I didn't have the money to go. And so they all went to back to Paris Island. There was like 7 of them, and pictures and everything, and they were showing the footprints on the concrete and taking, going down the catwalks and everything
Yeah.
else. And it was pretty, I mean, just to even see their pictures, pretty amazing. Um, Lots of funny stories, some of which, yeah, I got kind of reprimanded. And I even love those stories.
Well, you can
But
tell whichever one you want.
oh, I want to tell them all.
Okay, well, we're here. You tell whatever.
At one point in time, we accidentally locked ourselves, all of us, the whole platoon. We got locked out of our barracks or squad bay, and the DIs are like, "Well, what are we going to do?" And all this other stuff. I said, "Do you realize how many cheerleaders you have?" I said, "We'll just build a pyramid and get to that window up there." And they're like, "No, we're not doing that." And but we ended up getting in there anyway. But that was kind of funny because we
Wow.
did have a lot of cheerleaders that and that's what I did in high school. I was in cheerleading, stage choir. I did shop and
Okay.
golf and creative writing. So I was not, when I told all my friends, my guy friends in high school that I was going into the Marine Corps, they're like, what? And they're like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And so there were like 5 of them that followed me.
Oh,
Actually,
wow.
they went before me, and I like kind of monitored them. Like, all right, are they coming back crazy or not? Because there's always that story that, once we're brainwashed and everything else is like, nobody's brainwashed. It's
Yeah.
hard work, but nobody's really brainwashed. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess, but there's a point to it, right? You have to, I mean,
Yeah.
the idea is to break you down to build you back up, right? So, but I already knew that.
Yeah.
So, uh, the window thing, that was kind of funny. Then, uh, trying to decide which one to I'll tell you this one first. So we're at the range, the rifle range,
Mhm.
ball and everything else. And every time somebody says stand by, I'm like, targets. I mean, it's constantly in my head. I just want to targets down, targets up. I mean, it's kind of funny. So I was down there and I was pulling butts with one of the other Marines with me, and you only get so long to eat, but they weren't stopping. You have to pull in. So I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. I said, I want you to eat, and I'll pull the butts and work that while you eat. And then you take over and I'll eat. Yeah, she took her sweet time on eating. So
Yeah.
I didn't get to eat. So it's like, and here they come down the catwalk, uh, pulling up everybody's sack lunch. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm starving.
Oh, no.
And, and so I was like, all right. So I take the hard boiled egg that they always put in that sack lunch and I stuck it in my pack. I was like, all right, I'll just save this and I'll eat it later. Well, being that the first time at the range, I didn't realize the DIs were going to go through all of your stuff and look to make sure you didn't bring back any ammo with you. They found that hard boiled egg. Oh, I was so done for. I was so done for. It was, and it was probably one of the funniest. I mean, at the time, I'm looking at him like, are you serious? And I was like, okay. First, I mean, they had me pushing. And of course, I had to look up and give that half smirk and
Yeah.
go, all right, I know you're on a time schedule and I can go all day long. And it's like, whatever. And then they took the egg and they had me in front of the entire squad, at the front squad bay. And they took the egg and they put it on the ground and smashed it. One of the DIs smashed it with her boot. And she's like, eat it. You're that hungry? Eat it. So I'm looking through the shell and she was like, no, I said eat it. Shells included. And
Nice.
I'm like, all right, here we go. But I mean, I just was like, okay, this is crazy, but I'm going to do it because it's probably going to tick them off even more that I'm not
Yeah.
fighting this, right? It's like,
Absolutely.
if I
Yeah.
just say it doesn't bother me, then that's gonna, it's just gonna irritate them. And it did. It was kind of funny. But I am still in contact with my DIs, a couple of my DIs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I have one in particular. She was completely amazing, but she picked me out from the get go. Apparently, she was a recruiter with my recruiter in Oklahoma City.
Oh, wow.
And then when he recruited me out of Tulsa, she saw my name and she saw the recruiter, and she told the other she told the other DIs that, oh yeah, this one's mine. And my recruiter told me, go as long as you possibly can. Don't overachieve, don't underachieve, go as long as you possibly can without them knowing your name. I walked into that squad bay and they knew my name immediately. I'm like, well, that was short lived.
Very nice. That's the kiss of death sometimes. But in the long run, typically it turns out better. But yeah, that beginning, having them know your name from the very beginning is a rough go.
Yeah. But she was amazing. I mean, so I'm dyslexic. And so trying to memorize the general orders and everything else verbatim, I mean, I understand the gist, right? And I know all that. I mean, that's basically how I've always lived my life.
Yeah.
But to do it verbatim was very, very, very difficult for me. And I was doing watch one night, and she came out and she's like, say your seventh general order. And I'm like, I couldn't say anything. She goes, do you even want to be here?
Oh no.
And I just looked at her and I was like, yes, ma'am. And she goes, no, do you want to be a Marine? I said, yes, ma'am. She goes, in here. And she poked at my heart. She goes, I said, yes, ma'am. So spout off your seventh general order. And immediately it all came to me.
Wow.
It was a huge breaking point for me personally.
Yeah.
And she brought it, she knew I had it in me. She just had to make sure that I knew I had it in me.
Yeah.
And she goes, good job. And then turned around and walked off. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened here?
Almost like it was a dream.
It was crazy.
Wow.
So
But
yes, my time in boot camp was absolutely amazing. I do hate the sand pit. I don't like doing all that.
now you,
Um,
being at Paris Island, got very familiar with sand fleas as well, I'm sure.
mm,
Yeah.
I still have scars. But the best thing is we all found out uh, skin's so soft.
Mm,
If you get that, it those sand fleas, they won't touch you. But I'll tell you what, the DIs, they'll have you standing in formation and they'll just let those suckers swarm and bite the heck out of you. And if you flinch or scratch or whatever, yeah. But
wow.
again, it's not a bad thing. I don't look at it as bad. I
Yeah.
It is, if you're in combat and all of a sudden your allergies come up and you need to sneeze or whatever, you have to be able to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. Yeah. I never had the pleasure of spending much time on Paris Island. I've only been down there once. That was for a buddy who was retiring, so I went down there for that. That's the only time I've ever been on Paris Island. I was there for a couple hours at most. So I've never had the pleasure of enjoying Sam Fleas. I was a Hollywood Marine through and through. So I missed out on that.
Yeah, you did. Or didn't.
That's why they call us Hollywood, you know. It's all
Right?
good.
Well, I was very when I didn't realize at the in the beginning that all women went to Paris Island. I was like, well, I'm on this side of the Mississippi. I'm gonna go to California. My dad lived in California at the time. My aunt lived in California. And I was like, all right, well, that's cool. And then they're like, no, all women go to Paris Island. I was like, well, I don't know anybody there. And not that I would be able to see anybody anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was good. It was nice. I mean,
Yeah.
and then for school I end up stationed at Camp Johnson in North
Oh,
Carolina.
really? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I know that neck of the woods pretty good too.
So yeah,
So you get through boot camp, right? As you're getting ready to graduate and all that type of stuff. Now, where I'm assuming you go up to, is it Camp Johnson? No, not Camp Johnson. Where do you do Marine combat training?
we do it at Paris Island.
You do it at Paris Island. Okay. All right. So what
Ours
was
is
that like for you?
ours is included. Well, so it's a where we're at. It's a wooded area and everything else. We dug our foxholes, did all of our stuff, right? Um, but on our way there, we started to route step, and for people that don't understand what the route step, but you're in formation and you're just walking fast, but it's like an accordion when you do that. Well, I'm at the back, so I'm like right up on somebody's butt, and then I'm like too far away, and then so going back and forth, and I started to jog at one point in time, tripped over a stump, thought I caught my footing on one leg, didn't, locked my next step out, locked my leg out, bent my knee backwards.
Oh, hyperextension. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is when we're going through all of our, you know, training for using your compass and, survival, all that stuff. And I can barely walk. And at
Wow.
the end of it is the 5 mile run back to the barracks. And I'm like, my DIs looked at me and they're like, you can barely walk. You can either decide to wrap it and do what you want to do, or we're just going to have to drop you back 2 weeks. I'm like, well, that's not happening. I wrapped that sucker so hard, and I was the very last person to make it that 5 miles, but I did, and my DIs sat there and ran right along the side of me the entire time. They're like, you could
Very
have given
nice.
up, but you didn't.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
so, again, boot camp was super amazing for me.
Yeah. Sounds like you had a good time.
I
Uh,
did.
although tough, I'm sure, but a good time, good experience.
Yes. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
they're just doing their job.
Right.
And I think it was probably better that I knew going in. I mean, a lot of people probably didn't know going in, women especially, and, some men weren't informed about, all right, this is what you're really getting yourself into. And I already knew because my recruiter told me. And he'd even send me a letter and he's like, all right, this is your next phase. You need to start prepping for this.
Right.
So I had him working for me, and which was awesome because I had my friends that went in before I did that were sending me letters, and I'm sitting there getting mail, and they're like, oh, my maiden name is Kearns. So there, and this is going to be crazy. But and you can't change this and you can't make this up. My initials are KKK,
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
and I was born on 9/11.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah, you can't make that up. Then I get married. I've got 4K, so now I'm not the Ku Klux Klan. I'm the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And my mom's maiden name is Knight. I'm like, who can make this up? I mean, this is crazy. So,
That's pretty wild.
so my buddy from high school decides to send me a letter, and it says Corporal KKK Kearns. And I'm like,
Wow.
and they looked at it and they're like, you want to say anything about this? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, when I get out of here, I'm going to kill this guy. I'm just going to kill him. I was like, but I knew at some point in time they were going to mess with me, which is, I mean, that's the fun of it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't know. I got to see both sides, so I got to do the drill instructor thing as well. So I understand why drill instructors mess with people so much because you the monotony of doing it over and over and over, and it's just constant, constant, constant. You got to amuse yourself somehow, and at the expense sometimes of the recruit. But not that you're hazing them or anything, but you're definitely going to get your laugh.
right. Well, and so some of the girls, the very last day, you got to clean the squad bays and whatever. And I was the one that kept them all like mentally normal. And there was two people in my unit that one, I don't even know what happened to her. She just went mute. Yeah, she was crazy. Um, but the other girl, her husband was already in the Marine Corps. He got accepted into OCS.
Mm, yeah.
So he's going to be an officer, and here she is in boot camp. And so they collaborated with each other. And so she just refused to train
Mm,
because she wanted to get out.
yeah.
And because they were never going to station them in the same place.
Right.
So, I mean, that made sense to me. The other one that went mute, I mean, she just had a serious culture shock.
Yeah.
Uh, But that group of girls, I mean, we were really, really, really tight. And
Well,
yeah,
I would definitely say you guys were tight. I mean, well, you said it was a 30-year reunion, right? Yeah.
yes,
So 30-year reunion, uh, and you guys still talking, still communicating, stuff like that. I don't, I don't think I talked to anybody that was in my boot camp platoon. I don't know any of them. I know my drill instructors, and I know where some of them are. I don't talk to them. I mean, that goes to show that you guys were definitely tight and us probably not so much, you know. But kudos for you guys, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a strange, I mean, not strange, but it's kind of unheard of a little bit. I mean, same thing with my main unit that I was in, 11th Marines.
Mm.
So yeah, one, become a truck driver when I'm supposed to be ATC, and then end up in an artillery unit. How did that happen? But but when I got there, I was one of 8 women and 3,500 men.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
huge. Like that's ridiculous amount. I mean, try to. I couldn't do the math on that. That's wild.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had my pick of anything being
yeah,
a woman.
yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's wild. Whoa, dropped my flashlight. Um. So, okay. So after boot camp, you where did you end up going? Because you had to go to your school, right?
I went home
Mm-hmm.
because everybody gets home. I did the recruiting duty and everything else. So
Okay.
of course I got the meritorious promotion because of the recruiting duty. Um, and then I went to school, which was at Camp Johnson.
Okay. Nice.
And my buddy that I stayed up all night with in MEPS ended up at the same school at the same time, but different MOS. And I was like, all right, cool. I know somebody.
Wow. What was his MOS? Do you remember? I know the
Oh,
admin school used to be on Camp Johnson. I don't know if it's still or if it was there then. Uh,
I think he was like an S. I think it was, I don't know if he was, I don't remember now.
yeah.
I mean, it
It-
wasn't Motor T, it was something else, but there was admin and Motor T. And then I thought there was something else on there. Like, I want to say it was like
yeah.
dealing like front loaders or something like that, or, like heavy
Some sort of
equipment.
engineer type deal.
Yeah. I think that's what he did. I think it was
Okay.
a kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know where the school is for the engineers now. I think it's on Lejeune, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, it's been a hot minute since I was at Lejeune, so I'm not 100% certain on that. But yeah, and the Camp Johnson has the School of Infantry that is there now, and I know they have the admin school, and I think that Motor T actually. Where did they end up?
It's now in St. Louis, I think, because
Yeah.
I was slotted. They asked me if I wanted to go there and be an instructor because I was an instructor in 11th Marines. So
Okay.
they were asking me if I wanted to go to St. Louis and be an instructor there.
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of wild how the different MOSs they move from one place to another for the schoolhouses and stuff. But I guess for the better in the long run. But I don't know, maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah,
uh,
well, they got to do what they got to do. I mean, they
yeah,
shut down 511 recently.
yeah, yeah, that's true. They're shutting down all kinds of different things. They got rid of tanks battalions. There's no more tanks. So yeah, it happens. That's for sure. Got to downsize at some point. They'll build it back up eventually and reactivate them or something. Uh,
I was going to
it
make a
happens.
comment, but I'm not going to.
So, talk to me about your schoolhouse at Camp Johnson. What was that like?
Awesome.
Okay.
Again, I mean, I really have that whole entire portion of my life is probably the best portion of my life.
Okay.
Um, I graduated. Uh, want to say it was I was supposed to be first in my class, but I think ended up being second in my class. But it, there were, for the first time after boot camp, now you've got men and women that are integrated. So a lot of times I was the one running you know, the formation and doing the cadence and all that other stuff. And because my, it made it kind of fun for everybody because my, scholarship that it was for singing.
Oh,
So,
really?
I would sing
Yeah.
the same words, but I'd just do a different rendition. And I was like, all right, come on. So it made it fun for everybody.
Yeah.
And
Can you still do it? That's the question. Can you still do it?
yeah, if I can remember all the words. My granddaddy's a horse marine.
Yeah. I like it. I like it.
So yeah, it was fun and it was challenging. I'll never forget one of the instructors. We were driving and we were driving the 5 tons, the stick shift ones, not the automatic ones.
Yeah.
And I was in the front of the whole entire convoy, and I we were coming down a hill, and I saw that the light was changing, and so I started to downshift. And my instructor looked over at me and goes, "Oh my God, you must own a stick shift." And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Most men don't know how to do what you just did." I said, I'm not gonna wear out brakes and all this other stuff." I said, "Just downshift and slow down." And he was like, "Yeah." And then they would have like you'd have to pull up and park, and they'd have a marker where you needed to be right where in the middle of the tire. And I didn't have to look at anything. I was like, no, I can visually see it and I know how far I need to move and I'm done.
Yeah.
So they were like, "This is crazy." I was like, "Yeah, well," I was even surprising myself because, again, that's not the job I really wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. 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 But I bet you grew up. I mean, being, growing up in Oklahoma, at least for me, I learned stick shift, three on the tree, and then went to four on the floor. So I've been driving stick shifts my whole life. In fact, I got a Mini Cooper right now, and it's a stick shift. I love that thing. I
Nice.
just sold my Jeep. Just got rid of that, and it was a 5 speed. It was a 1995 Jeep Wrangler. It was a blast to drive. It's a fun little thing, but all of them stick shifts. The only one I don't have that's a stick shift is my wife's car, the Highlander. So
Oh, I've owned a Highlander. That's a nice car.
yeah, and the Toyotas go forever. It is amazing with little work or little anything you have to do. Just change the oil and put gas in it. That's pretty much all you got to do.
Maybe give it a bath every once in a while.
Yeah, I do when it rains. I definitely do it.
Right? As long as it's not hailing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It does mess it up a little bit.
So, yeah, I mean, school was awesome. I remember there was a group of us, me obviously being the only girl. Um, we would sit there and we'd do our studying and everything else in the barracks, and then we'd order pizza. But we got a very nice cabbie that would go and pick up pizza and everything else and deliver it to us, and also pick up a 12 pack of beer.
Nice. Okay.
We-
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, and that one cabbie, I can't remember his name, but he was so cool, and he would take us to, the local honky tonk, and we would go dancing and everything else on the weekends. He would tell us all sorts of weird, crazy stories. It was like, I almost want to just ride around with him because he's telling us all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was fun. I mean, the whole thing was fun. And our whole entire group, we were we were just very competitive with each other, so we fueled each other.
Yeah,
But every Marine is competitive,
very
right?
true. Yeah.
That's just how we're built.
Yeah, very true.
And I said something at one point in time, and to somebody that was completely amazing in my life, and
Mhm.
he said something, but it was not. It wasn't meant to be bad,
Mhm.
but I called out some things, and I said, and I think you're a narcissist.
Yeah.
Did not like that at all. But I think we're all narcissists because we like to be right. We
Yeah.
don't wrong. We're very protective. And because we don't want to be wrong, we make sure we're knowledgeable about a lot of things.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's a good quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
I
weird?
think I would agree with you. I would say that there are times where people will take it too far, and that's with anything. It doesn't matter what it is, but there are individuals that definitely take it too far. But yeah, I agree with you. We are, to a certain extent, everybody or all Marines have that in them for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's two different kinds of narcissists. There's the one that is about, they're about themselves, but they're about everybody else. But then there's the ones that are the arrogant
Hmm.
100% about them, and they don't care about anybody else.
Right. Yeah. Very true. Very true. So
And
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
the Marines I know are not the bad ones. They're typically everybody I've ever known, they're very protective. We're protective of our own, and
Yeah.
we're protective of other services also.
Hmm.
I mean, just this past weekend, um, a guy I've never met, uh, but met him online. He had talked to me. He was in the Navy. He had talked to me about stuff that was going on in his home, and he's got a daughter, and then he's got a mother that is has dementia, and would always blame the granddaughter for stuff that was happening. And I was like, you know what? You're 3.5 hours away. I mean, I don't know your financial situation, whatever. I have room. You guys can have a father daughter, just a weekend break. That would
Yeah.
be, and invited this guy and his daughter, and his daughter's friend came with her, two 12-year-old girls. and they stayed the weekend. I was
Very
like,
cool.
we take care of each other. That's what
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah. Very true. A lot of people miss out on that. So, several veterans I've talked to, they get out and then they lose all connection. They don't have anybody or whatever. And a lot of people, I won't say a lot, but some people have a hard time reaching out. That happens. So it's awesome that you're there and you're the one saying, "Hey, come on, I'm here to help you, whatever." But yeah, there's definitely those out there that need the help, need assistance, those types of things. I mean, heck, we all do at some point in time. At least in my opinion, we do. I know I have used or have needed help at some point in time. That's life.
And it's like our buddy, he's supposed to have been here twice and he keeps canceling on me.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Okay.
He was like, Kelly, are you serious? You're inviting this random person that you've never met to your house? I was like, I've never met you.
Oh, that's funny. That's good. I had a question for you. So, you had mentioned your instructor. You were talking about downshifting, right? And your
Mhm.
instructor saying there's most males that don't know how to do that or whatever.
Right.
Um, Being that this was the first time female going to integrated training, um, was there anything strange in that for you, uh, or was that just run of the mill? It's all good.
For me, it was run of the mill, all good.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, did I have choice words for a couple of, oh, yeah, a couple of other WMs?
Yeah.
Because they were doing something and they were trying to pin a male Marine. I don't deal with that kind of
Yeah.
stuff at all. Um, because I mean, back then the male Marine was always guilty
Yeah.
um, from the get go. It wasn't until proven guilty. It was you are guilty until you can prove that you are not.
Right.
And I did not like that, and especially when it's um word of mouth. It's just two people
Mhm.
saying.
Right.
This one girl, she accused this guy of, I don't want to say it was rape, but I mean, she might have accused him of that or whatever. She was just saying, well, I didn't want it. I'm like, you've been hanging out with the guy constantly for this many days. And I'm sorry, and no joke, I pinned her up to the brick wall on the outside of the barracks. And I was like, you know what? I'm telling you, I know you're full of crap. And if you don't make this right and you try to ruin somebody's life because you can't keep your legs shut, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And she
Wow.
just, and all that stuff got turned around. That's when I'm in school. I'm
Yeah.
nobody at this point.
You're like PFC Lance Corporal,
I was PFC at that point,
PFC at this point. Okay.
but
Wow.
I was not. I'm not having it. I mean, do
Yeah.
not do that to somebody else.
Yeah.
Just because you're upset that you decided, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that last night. Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear you. And I would like to say that it's gotten better. And I will say that to a certain extent, it has not. In fact, it's gotten a little worse. But what are you going to do? Other than try your best to do the right things, when you're put in positions. But yeah, I will say that there are many Marines that have gone down for stuff that probably wouldn't have been as big a deal, but unfortunately, it happened. So it happens,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, again, we all protect each other. And I wasn't going to take her side. I knew she was wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, my bunkmate in boot camp, we were talking, he was like, so why did you join the Marine Corps? And I said, patriotism. I said, I owe it and to everybody. And I need to pay. It makes me happy to pay this back
yeah.
and to keep it the way everybody's made it. And I go, well, why did you join the Marine Corps? She goes, to find a husband. And I looked at her, I was like, are you kidding me? I said, go to freaking college. What is wrong with you? It's like, I
That's
want,
that's strange.
uh, it is strange. And I was like, I don't even, and I love that girl. I mean, she was so sweet, but I was like, you're a freaking nut job. I
Well, there
mean,
has
why
to be easy. There
all
has to
this,
be easier ways to find a husband than going to
right?
Marine boot camp. And
Go to a local bar or something. I mean, come on.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Oh man. All right, so you finish up there at Camp Johnson, and
Right?
you get orders, and you said 11th Marines, right?
Yep.
So 11th Marines, correct me if I'm wrong, out in California.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I had it right. So the even numbers are on the East Coast. So 11th Marines out in California. What is that? Not Horn, no, not on Horno. What is it? Where are they at?
Las Vegas.
Los Pogus. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah. I've been through there many a time. So talk to me about the transition to that, going to 11th Marines. You're one of eight, you said, if I'm not mistaken, eight females in a regiment of how many?
At least 3,500, but I think that that's not even counting Fifth Marines. It was just
Yeah.
Las Vegas because Fifth Marines was down the road.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's right. So talk to me a little bit about that. What was that transition like? What was your feelings going into it? Were you nervous? Not many females. Like, how was that for you?
There was one other female that got off the bus with me when we pulled up, and of course, we just do that. It's like autopilot. You just go and get your shit and do whatever you need to do. Um, I remember what the guys were looking at and like their like little whispers and everything else. I was like, all right, I got your number, dude. Whatever.
Okay.
Not my first rodeo. And so it was, I mean, to me, it was funny. And my friends or the girl that was with me, she was like, um, I think she was a little bit terrified. And oh my God, the barracks that we went to that we had to be in when we first got there were terrible. I mean, they were from World War II. They were squad bay barracks, but they put walls just to
Yeah.
make them. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I was just like, okay, well, at least I can shut a door. I mean, but we still had bathrooms and everything else. And I mean, everybody did. Um, and I'd go over to hang out with some of my other guys in Calm, Survey Met. I mean, all of them. And we would hang out, but I just go and go to the bathroom in their communal bathrooms because I mean, we were really, 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 really close. I mean, there's one guy that is a friend of mine. Um, Point, he kind of remembers me more than I remember him, but
Mhm.
I'm starting
Okay.
to remember that I remember him. Um, but he lives in Lubbock,
Mhm.
and he has recently reconnected with me, and he is like, my boys go to school there, and he's like, if your boys ever have an issue, I got them. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
my boys are gonna have an issue, trust me. And I was like, I've got that devil stare. I mean, I can look at them even when they were teeny tiny, I could look at them across. I'm like, hey, boys. And I'd look at them across the room and they're like, oh no, mom means business. Done. And then I,
Very nice.
uh, my youngest son, I'm like, hey, what's the mommy mean look? And he would do it. I mean, I can't even do it anymore because I have nothing to be mad about, really.
Yeah.
So but he would do it just perfectly. And I was like, oh, yeah, I like the way I look when I'm mad.
At least they knew, that's important.
I didn't have to say or do anything. I just gave a look and it was like, nope. And I had a bunch of kids at my house. One Valentine's Day, the entire neighborhood, well, not the entire neighborhood, it's grown now, but there were a whole bunch of parents and they wanted funny. I just got a text from that guy that I was talking to you about that's in love.
He knew you were talking about him.
Apparently his ears were burning. So anyway, my neighbors, they were like, hey, we're not going to be able to be home when the kids get out of school. Can they come to your house? And I mean, we planned all this. And so I was like, yeah, it's not a problem. I had 12 kids here. Wait, five, 16, 16 kids here.
Wow.
And they all got dropped off. Either I picked up some of them. I mean, I did pick up some of them. And then some of them got dropped off at the bus. They just stopped at my house instead. And I was like, all right, that's what we're going to do. Because, I mean, you have 16 kids, most boys, and
Mhm.
not having to do. It's going to be complete chaos, right?
Yeah.
So I went and got little tartlets and cookies and everything else. And I had them, I got like the plastic plates, but the clear ones
Hmm.
with the red, like heart doilies. And I put on the front of them, I said, I love you because, and then dot, dot, dot. And I told them, I said, now each of you, this is going to be your gift, your Day gift to your parents. So write whatever you want to on the backside.
Yeah.
And then you will put it back on your plate. And then you make your whatever pastries that you make and gave them all sorts of options. And they did all that. And then they took it and they felt good about like they were able to give their parents something.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm like
Yeah.
that weird random person that just so my Marine Corps and all that stuff, it carries over into everything.
Yeah. 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 Well, I like it. I think you got a good thing going on there. Well, hey,
I
I
try.
think we're approaching that hour mark or whatever. So I think we'll to put a pause on it here, and then we'll come back for part two and continue on in your career and everything that you did. How's that sound?
Awesome.
All right, sounds good. Hey, to all the listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. Uh, just remember that we do care about you, and we want you to get the help that you need. So don't hesitate to call if you need help. You can always dial 988, press option one. They're gonna be able to put you in contact with somebody that can help you. You can also text 939 939-288. Or you can go on veteranscrisisline.net, click on that chat icon. All of those options going to get you in contact with somebody that's going to help you. I care about you. I know Kelly cares about you. All the other veterans out there care about you. So please reach out for some help. With that, Kelly, thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to part two. And to all listeners out there, stay motivated, change your stocks.